Okay, so looking very, very nice. Now, as I said before, we haven't overcoated this, so you can probably see in the light how we've got the shininess actually on with the more of a satin finish, shall we say, the actual MRP grey on here, and then we've got this flat that we've actually done the weathering with. Okay, so what we're trying to do now is recreate what happens naturally when those touching paints get going. The weathering sticks to it a little bit more, it gets grimy, blah-de-da-de-da. Okay, the big thing is though, we haven't actually sealed the decals, so we're going to be very mindful of these. The real ones you're always going to have trouble with is the ones that have got a lot of carrier film. Okay, so if you've got a lot of carrier film, you maybe want to steer clear of that. It's not the ideal, but the thing is, when you're doing it, this technique of wanting to have flat satin and various things on there, you just need to have that sort of, you know, little bit of a difference in there with the actual paint texture. And by not actually having to put down a gloss coat when you come into decaling and stuff and forth like that, all the texture paints all remain slightly different right the way over. And that's what we're trying to recreate. So, standard dark dirt every time, you know me. So we're going to just decant a bit in here. It's had a damn good shake up. To be honest, this is almost the end of my first bottle this year. We've done quite a few models and different projects. So, usual thing, good old mix in the cup. Okay, checking it, making sure it's not gritty. So put it up on the side, let it all fall off, and it shouldn't look gritty. If it's looking gritty, you need to give it a bit more of a mix up. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put this all over it. Okay, now this hopefully is going to get caught in the surface texture. It's also going to get caught in all the riveting detail. It's going to get caught everywhere. The whole point is we want this to be pretty difficult to remove. Okay, so whilst it should come off relatively easy because we've got a nice smooth area, those flat areas we put on there, it's really going to get caught in that texture, and then hopefully it's going to give a few problems. Now we have got some anti-slip walkways and various things to go on this as well yet, and I intend to put those on, but for the moment we're just trying to get the base of the weathering in place so we can just carry on and get this going. Okay, so there's other things we're going to do with this one. We're going to pop in with oils, and neat oils to be honest, and a little bit of streaking underneath. I've noticed watching some YouTube videos that they tend to get very yellowy, extremely yellow actually, more than sort of that hydraulic orange colour streaking underneath. Okay, so from that point of view we're going to try and recreate that. So we'll be coming with oils, and we're using a little bit of thinner with the oils probably to just enable those to come to life a little bit more. Okay, so plenty of this around all of here. So for the minute I'm not going to do the tail because I'm holding it, and then what we'll do is we'll do it off hand once we've all moved. Okay, so at the same time, if you have got any pylons, if you've got anything else you want to have, the geared doors, all of those things, which to be honest we've got separate, you can then just pop along now and give those a weathering wash all at the same time. But the whole point of doing a full weathering wash as opposed to a pin wash and all those things is we're going to put this everywhere. Now if you notice the wash beads up a little bit, i.e. it can't break the surface tension, then you can obviously add a little bit of washing up liquid or dishwater soap into the mixture just to enable it to flow just that little bit better around. Okay, so again I'm just going to try and keep an even coat. It doesn't really matter if you've got big splodges and areas down on this one. Okay, so that's it. And the decals to me look like they've gone down very nicely, so that's why I'm not too worried about trying to get in there and you know, sort them out, or with silvering having trouble underneath them. They actually went down really very, very nicely. So from that point of view we're quite happy just to push through like this, down over the nose again. And again, most important thing with all of this is to make sure you are everywhere. Now obviously it doesn't matter about the canopy areas. Okay, last bit just round in here, around the hook, all these different areas down the back. Okay, it's just important that you don't leave any clean spots because otherwise you will have a difference. Okay, so again, just a little bit more leading edges of the wings, just making sure they're all covered. That's pretty good, happy with that. Okay, just this bit on the canopy, it's got a little bit of the canopy framing work, so to speak. Just making sure all of those are weathered in. Just a little bit around this front one. Again, a great thing with the wash is you can just rinse it off at any point. Okay, so just down here on the tail. Try and get in there as much as we can. Okay. Last bit just at the top, just like that. And there we go. So usual thing, just make sure you've got everywhere covered. Just make sure you haven't got anything that's plastic coloured or painted colour, because otherwise it will stand through. What we're going to do, leave that dry. It's going to take around about 20 minutes, half an hour. It's quite warm in here. Once that's completely dried off, we'll do the usual. We'll just rub it away using different amounts of moisture and amounts of pressure of rubbing it to actually give us a more sort of mottled look. Grimy some areas. So obviously down here on the fuselage section, we're thinking quite walky. Lots of movement on there, so that's obviously going to be quite warm. Outer wings, not so much, and things like that. And generally work around it. That'll give us our nice grounding then. That's what we're on about, those little clean bits there. That'll be our first stage of the weathering. So I'm spotting areas. Okay, once that's fine and you're happy with all of that, then what we can do is then get that all off. You can either seal it, but what we'll probably do is just come straight in again with some more oils and then a little bit more streaking. Then we can get it up onto its gear, get the flaps onto it, sorry, the doors, all those types of areas on there, just like that. Once they're all in place, then we can actually think about going along doing the pylons, getting those fitted up and really start bringing it together. Okay, so wash has been on, to be honest, overnight. It's completely dry now, and as you can see, it gives us a very nice, very dirty, very grimy, weathered in effect, which obviously is totally over the top for what we need, because what we need is it more in the panel lines, a little bit of light grime here, there, and everywhere. So, usual thing for this one, I know you've seen me do it a million times before, good quality kitchen towel. To be honest, if you use the cheap ones, they tend to fall to bits, and same goes with your cotton buds as well. The cotton buds just get into all those little nooks and crannies that you might have a little bit of difficulty getting into. So let's see what we got. So to start with, don't go straight in there with the old lick cloth and see what we've got. Have a gentle rub just to work out what you're up against. Okay, so just by giving it a rub, you can see we can take off quite a bit. Okay, but we want to go a little bit further than that. All right, so what we're going to have to do is put in a little bit of moisture, but sometimes if you're using it over a nice normal gloss finish, you might find it comes away with very minimal effort. So we lick the cloth, back of the hand, just take a little bit off, and then we start on our rotations. There is a little bit of sink mark, which I haven't really noticed. Wash has made it stand out actually on the leading edge of those wings. But don't forget, when you're taking the wash off, you're also spreading it all around, okay? So just being a little bit mindful over the decals, make it a little bit wetter, and that way it will come away nice and easy without any risk of lifting a decal or anything else like that. Okay, and to start with, we're just going to push it all back. A little bit of sink mark in there. That saw-toothed edge we're going to try and keep, so we're trying to wipe sort of 90 degrees to it. Okay. Okay, that's off. And that is one wing pretty well clear. Okay, so again, nice, moist. Okay, just back and forth, direction of airflow, because then we've got a little bit of stick just there. We can just blast it with that direction we want to go with. And there we go, that's our wing done just like that, before and after. So what we'll do, we'll take it up down the side and you can see exactly what we got. So again, lightly moistened, lightly rubbing, because again, we want some of this to stay. We don't want to get rid of all of this, because otherwise we just end up with a pin wash, and to be honest, that's not exactly what we're after. We're after something that's a little bit warm, a little bit wear, and you can probably see it starting to grip a little bit down in here. This is where it's getting caught in that texture. It's that all important textures that we were talking about when we were putting down the flat coat of the Tamiya versus a slightly more satin finish of the MRP, and it's working with us. But the thing is, if we was to rub too hard, we're just going to come away and we're going to leave nothing behind. So we're being a little bit frugal, and then we're just giving it a little bit of a rub, and you can see this is that type of effect we are trying to get down here, where the wash is actually working very, very nicely with the actual flat surface and with the satin surface as well. So again, be a little bit mindful around the decals, because they are not protected, and obviously if you rub too hard, you're just going to rub them all away. But then again, we've got some post shading around all of this, so we're just being a little bit careful not to over rub it and take too much away. Okay, so again, you can probably see it where it's gripping on this tail area. Okay, right the way through, and that is the thing, when you see it down in here you can see quite clearly what we've done. If you remember, we gave a little bit of texture up here and it's now gripping with the wash. We also gave it around about the rudder area and the areas like that, and we gave quite a bit around the rear end here, and it's sticking. Okay, and the idea is it's holding it literally in place, but if you over wet your cloth, all you're going to do is end up taking that all out. So what we're going to do, we're going to do like a half and half effect here, I think. Okay, so that's all looking pretty nice. Alright, and we're just going to work up. Again, remember to knock a little bit off, because otherwise you're just going to take too much too quick and you end up having to redo it. Okay, so again, all this area around here, we're coming in quite slow, very sort of deliberate. Nose is going to be quite clean, we feel, because obviously not a lot of grub is going to happen behind there. Okay. So again, up in these top areas, these walkway areas, things like that, it's going to get a little bit more. All right. So now we can just sort of work our way underneath. Okay. Just remember, back of the hand, don't strip it all off. And actually, that's worked really, really well. Okay. Intakes, things like that, tricky areas like up in here, cotton bud, with the exact same effects. So, when using the cotton bud, just use it and treat it exactly as you would when you were using your tissue. So lightly moisten it, start off light, and then you can, as it begins to get in there and bite, you can rub a little bit more, and then your final passes, it's always just in that direction of airflow. Okay, so we're just going to just around that area there. We're just trying to do a half and half comparison. Okay, and then what we'll do, we're just going to work our way exactly the same down the back. And again, it's that thing. This tissue, to be honest, as long as it doesn't fall apart, you can just keep going, because you're going to take some of this grime and you're just going to spread it around. And that's what we're trying to do. But this texture is actually really gripping the wash very nicely, and it's giving us exactly what we're after. So you can see down under here it takes quite a bit to get this all moving and going, but you can probably see how sharp this is all coming into focus now. And this is the thing about it, this isn't a panel line or a pin wash or anything else like that. This is actually a weathering wash, and it's physically designed to grip. And this is the difference between this wash and other washes that are out there. The Flory Models one will physically grip the surface, allowing you to manipulate the finish you want. So down in here, for instance, we're just lightly rubbing, direction of airflow, things like that going on. It's a little bit cleaner just down that area. But obviously if we wanted to, we could actually take this back to being basically clean and just as a panel line wash. But we do want it to grip, and again, by buffing it up now, drying it, this is all totally in place. None of this is going to wear away, none of it's going to rub away or anything else. And there we go, that gives you this type of effect we're actually going for. You can see it, very nicely done, literally just like that. Okay, so from that point of view, it's just a case now of keep going in with it, rubbing it around. Remember, if you overdo it, you take a little bit too much away, feel free to pop back in then and obviously add another coat, let that dry, rinse and repeat as many times as you like. If you're not happy with the colour, Don't worry about it, overcoat it with another colour, so perhaps you want something a little bit darker or something else like that. We've got the grime wash, we've actually got all the different other colour washes, and you can make up any particular shade or hue or something you want. Then you can come in, lighten or darken. Obviously we've got the light, we've got the black and colours like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to carry on now, get it completely off the other side, and we'll have a see of what we got. Okay, so we're really pushing ahead now on the actual Rafale. To be honest, we've just opened up the cockpit. A couple little jobs we've done on this one. We're really happy of how the wash is and all those areas like that. You can see down out in the close-up. That's the type of effect we're going for. We are going to do some more things with it, but at the moment I'm just trying to catch up with some of the jobs technically I should have done before. So, gear is in. As you can see, it's down in there. Straightforward, oil wash, literally just over the gear. So it's just aluminium and then we've done the oil wash. Okay, so it gives it a nice weathered look in those hubs. You can see down there the front of the gear. You might see we've got the actual suspension, little strut down in there as well for the travel. That's just done with a chrome pen, just to do those, and you can probably see the bits of it just down in there shining away like a good one. Okay, the doors are literally just a case of poking it in the hole, so you can see the little feet. You can see they're nice and clean. Those do need to be cleaned up just a little bit. The same with the front one up here. The thing is with this, what we've got to do is actually cut it in two, and then this rear part becomes part of the door system. Again, needs a little bit of weathering just down on there like that, and we would be good to go. The nozzles haven't been fitted in yet, but they're just placed in there just like that, looking very, very nice indeed. So generally we're coming along, and now it can get its own weight on just like that and sit there all ready to go. I have done a couple of things which we'll show you in a moment in the spray booth. One of them is the canopy parts. So the canopy is all masked up, it's all done like this, but there is a little bit of framework that's going to go on the inside. So we've got this front area also, and I've used just a little bit of mask oil on this one. So I've used a little bit of the old Micro Sol R, and you can probably see it's a little bit green. If I do this, you'll see it. There we go. And I've just masked it. So what we're going to do is spray all of this in here black, so it's going to be part of that canopy frame, and it's going to sit down here at the back part just like that. So we've done this so we can spray it. So literally it's just a dab of mask oil down in here, cocktail stick, and push it to the corners. Done on both sides, because we need to spray it on both sides and we should be good to go. If it doesn't work and it's not the best fit in the world, all we can do is just do a quick scratch clean on that with a wooden cocktail stick and we'd be good to go. So we've got that bit all ready to come in as well. The other thing that I did forget to do, to be honest, was the pylons at the same time. So what we've got just down in here, we've actually got the triple ejection rack system. This is for the actual the bombs to go on these. Okay, so that's just going to fit in there just like that. No problem with those at all. Okay, and we've got these, as I say, both of those done. They're ready to go in, but we've got to do the pylons because we haven't actually painted the pylons. All right, so these need to be painted up. So these are the big ones for the fuel tanks. So with ours, we're going to have fuel tanks, so they're just going to fit in here just like this with no problem. But, and this is where we have the problem. So, just a quick walkthrough. One of these I've done, one I haven't. So I'm just going to figure out which one I've done and which one I haven't. This is the one. You might notice on the fuel tanks, these actually have, we catch it in the light, you can see here, raised details. Okay, now raised details can give you a little bit of a headache because traditionally you come along with your scriber and you rescribed. But that's for recessed details, and we don't want recessed details. So a lot of people ask about how you can do it. To be honest, I think, again, a lot of people overcomplicate the problem because they'll go in there and they use stretch sprue and then they'll place it down. Yeah, okay. Easiest way for me is a knife. Okay, now, depending on the thickness you're going for will depend on the blade you're going to use, okay? If you want something like you're working on a 132nd aircraft, you need some big heavy duty, I would use a blade like this that I tend to use my everyday knife, okay? I've got Olaf blades down in there, but technically they are very, very heavy cutting, okay? So if you used to do that, you can end up with a very large V-cut in the surface. Now the V-cut, obviously, if you're going to do it right and it's small, doesn't look like a V. When you look at it, it will just look like a raised bit, but there's a tiny little V because all you've done is as you cut in, it's raised at each side, okay? If you use down in here, and to be honest, we've got a number 11 blade down here in a holder. This is absolutely lovely because the great thing with this is it's got a very, very fine blade. And as anybody who knows me, been following me a long time, knows I hate these things with a vengeance because I am a klutz. Now, traditionally, you might come along and you think, right, we're going to use our little tool, and you put this down and you go along. Overcomplicating it again, because what can happen, that can move, it can slip. Also, you can't see exactly where you're going. So when you're doing a curved surface like this, literally, we've done this one We've already done that side, but you can see where we've actually had the centre seam, we've taken it out and we can't see. So some areas it's not too bad, it's just got a little joint just across here, okay, and then some of the others are a little bit more. But the easiest way I do, I just place the blade on, okay, and then literally you just push it round and you put the tip where you want to go. So I'm only cutting in the center port part of it. So from a cross section look of it, I'm literally doing that. Okay, so I'm using the tip to see where I'm going and I can literally just follow it along. So all you do is just come along, okay, and I'm just literally push it down until I feel the raised area, okay, so I know I'm in there. And as you can probably see, as I look across it, I've already got a line of where I'm going. So then I just push and go round, and then if I rub it, you can see we've got a raised panel lines put back in. Okay, so we're going to do the same here. Alright, so we can go along. I can see where I'm going, that's where we want to go with this one. So just making sure I am right on the line, and then we just push and follow the blade right over. You got one just down in here as well. This one's actually a little bit further back. Okay, on, and we just push and go right the way over, and that puts in our surface detail. We've got the last one here. Okay, and we just follow it round, and then hopefully you can see it now gives us, give it a rub, you can see we have a raised panel line put back in there, and for all intents and purposes when you look at it, it looks exactly the same. So again, perhaps you want to just come in, so we're just going to come in here and we're just going to rolling this round, so we're just putting the tip where we're going, okay, and then we're just following it right the way around and just rolling. So now we've put a raised panel line and we've tidied up where the join would be on the back, and to be honest we're going to do it straight away on the nose. So again, we're just trying to find that point of where it is. Now because we've got glue here, we're just going to take this very, very steadily. You don't want to push too hard because we don't want to cut the front of the nose off. Okay, and then we can just travel all the way around. Now this technique we're doing here is exactly the same, I think that's about it, is if you want to do rescribing work. So the thing is, now you've put that little cut in there, you can come along with a very fine scribing tool and follow it round, and then if you want to widen it and put a bigger one in, then obviously you come through around with a wider one. So if you've ever wondered about how you would go about doing such an area, that's how we would do it. So now we can just come along here, alright, and it's a little bit difficult on a flat surface because obviously you need to join up like we've done down here, these two coming back. Okay, so you might want to use a template, but you can roughly do the same. So you're just going to point this in and then you're just going to walk it back. Okay, and there we go, we've put that raised panel line just joining that one up. I think it only has one. Okay, and that is literally how we do it. So that you can see, got a tiny one in here as well. Okay, that's those done in there just like that, and then that way we have very nice raised panel lines put back in, and it is that simple. Okay, so again, this is one thing about this hobby, do not overcomplicate it. You really don't have to. That's how you do it. Number 11 blade, whip round, do it like that. Again, you can use this technique as well for the start of actually rescribing. Okay, so if you did want to do recessed work, exactly the same technique, especially if you're doing a curved area at the front and things like that. Okay, so what you can do is you literally put the blade in, follow it round. That just gives you a tiny little groove, so your scribing tool's got something to follow. And then you can very lightly and let the blade do all the work, go round, and then perhaps use a thicker blade to start off with something really small and then get bigger and go round and do them just like that. And that is it. It's that simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Always take the easiest option. And for me, that is definitely the easiest option for doing raised details. And they are, as I feel it, in the same scale as the rest of it. It's not like you've got an area which has got a lot more, it's heavier, that's pretty much the same. And that's the thing about using a sharp, very sharp number 11 blade and not pushing too hard. So just gentle pressure, just to make sure you're pushing in enough to give you some detail and right the way around. If you do find it's not enough, then you could cut in and use a bigger blade, like something I got down in here on these Olaf blades, because they've got a little bit more of a heavy wedge. Number 11's got a thinner blade. Okay, number 11 there's got a little bit more meat to it, so it gives you a wider V. And again, depending on the scale you're working with, will depend on exactly the type of thing you're using. Always remember, put your cover back on and then put that knife safely away, because I'm terrible with it. Anyway, that's that one done. Happy with those. What I've also done as well, I've got the weapons fit done as well. So we've done some missiles down in here. We've got some GBUs. As I say, we've got the pylon. So what we're going to do, move over to the spray bay, and we're going to do something a little bit special with the fuel tanks. Okay, so we've been pushing on a lot, and when we say a lot, we've done a lot. But it's all stuff that's pretty straightforward, and we can show you exactly what we've done. So over on the fighter, to be honest, you can probably see just down in here we have the lights. So we've been putting the lights in, both of those in each side, and also we've done the heads up. So I don't know what they call it down here. It's the infrared track and scan sight. Okay, those are in on the front. They need to be painted up and tidied up yet, but those are in and done. So very happy with that. At the same time, we've just popped around and we've done a few other things as well. So down in here, we've worked on the canopy. So the canopy looks probably more complex than what it is. So this bar system, you can see down in there, painted black, super glued. Sorry, not super glued. We used a little bit of the old Micro Crystal Industries clear just to put this in, and we've done down the back. This one's grey down at the back. That just fits down there inside just like that. And then in the front here, you can see we've got this one running around the front here, and this has got the mirrors on, and it's got the actual grab handles for the actual inside the cockpit as well. All right, so that's just going to come along and it's going to stick in the side just like that. We've also done the fuel tanks. So we've just gone along, and after we did the actual raised detail, and hopefully you can see down in there how well those have gone in. You can't really tell the difference, that these are not done just the way we did before. And then obviously popping this front one round as well, tidied up any little joins and stuff like that. So really that gives us raised details right the way around, maybe a little bit higher. Okay, so usual thing, we just went along and we did that actually, the gold grey right the way over that one, just to give it that colour. And then what we've actually done is we just come in with a slightly lighter shade just to do some little patches and different changes of colours. And as you can see, we've deckled it up and we've given it a bit of a weather with a little bit of clay wash right the way over it, down there, on there, just like that. So that's really straightforward. And on the other side, we did a different one. So we did a centre section, this slightly different colour, so forth and so on down on there, just like that. Okay, so those are done and ready to be installed. Happy with those. The pylons we painted and we put together, and we've put up exactly the same as well. So those have all been weathered up, ready to go, looking good just like that. Okay, and then last up we've done the weapons fit. So very straightforward. So we've got the missiles just down on here. These have been done as well, painted and deckled. Those are still literally going off as we speak. And we've also done the bombs. So we've got these GBU bombs, you can see on here, painted green, okay, and then obviously just deckled up as before, a little bit above, just on the seeker end like that, but these generally are done. What I tend to do is with these, if I've got one that's a nice easy one to show a little bit better, you might notice that it's a slightly different colour. This is because it's different texture. So down in here we had very low air pressure, neat paint, and when you do that, what happens is it has trouble of spraying it, and it comes out and it flicks and spits and everything else. It gives you that real micro texture, and I don't know how well the camera, you can see it on the actual camera, but it just gives it that sort of rough texture that the actual bombs have. Obviously this is the ordnance area. The rest of it is then normal paint, so it's thinned and then just sprayed the end. Didn't even mask it because you're not going to really see it. We sprayed those, and then to be honest, we hand painted the little red section in the middle here. That was just done with hand painting and done just like that. And then literally all we're going to do is just, we've super glued these on, so a spot of super glue, just popped it in and everything else, and then we end up with something like this, okay, which is a really nice triple ejector rack down on here, which fits on, and we're having those bombs all deckled and done and everything looking really nice on those. Very happy with it. Technically, I think what I might do is we're going to do some more stuff with oils, and we're going to wash these up. I'm going to go through the motions of actually showing about weathering and distressing them slightly. So tend to be what I do is I use a little bit of enamel wash, I thin it even more, and then we just smear it on and technically leave it, and that's all you need to do, and it gives it that nice worn weathered look on it like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the rest of the bombs on just like that, and we can really start to push through on this one. So next up for us, what we're going to do is going to add some normal streaking. Now the streaking can be actually anything from using an enamel pre-bought one, which is the way we're going to do it. We're going to put those on, do some streaking techniques with it, gently build up that through a few different colours to give us the underside, to have that hydraulic release and everything else, and exactly the same on the top.